Welcome to Provocative Bite. Welcome to Provocative Bite.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Provocative Bite, so welcome back to Provocative Bite. I'm doing a little different setting right now. I'm just sitting down because today we're going to be making steam buns, also known as baozi in Mandarin. It's a very much grab as you go, pretty much like a fast food. It's kind of equivalent of getting a sandwich on the way out to work. This is pretty much a lot of fun. It's this fluffy white bread with this juicy filling inside, and it just encompasses everything. And all the juices seeps into this steamed fluffy bread, and you get this very nice and very moist type of filling. I know moist is not like exactly everybody's taste of word, but that is exactly the only way I can explain it. So first we're gonna start with the dough. Now the dough is a bread dough. It's just a steamed up version of the bread dough. The ingredients that you would need: strong white bread flour, because it's high in protein. The higher the protein in the flour, the better. But if you can't access that, you can also use all-purpose flour, but I strongly recommend to use white bread flour. The next thing that you would need is that you would need some dry activated yeast, sugar, white sugar, salt, some room temperature water, slightly warmer than room temperature water, and those are the ingredients. In terms of the measurements, similar to what I was saying before, if you watched my last video on dumpling making, which by the way, I absolutely adored everybody's dumplings. They looked amazing. It's a similar concept where it's 2 parts flour to 1 part water. First, you need to get your dry activated yeast. Normally you can find that in any supermarket. It's more granule ones. So what I would do is I would start with yeast. Now what I did in this video, which I recommend not to follow this part, I know that's a little bit confusing, but what I had done was I separated my yeast into a tiny ramekin. What I would suggest to do is to measure out your water first. What I said before, it's 2 parts flour to 1 part water. So once you've measured everything, when you've measured out your water, the container you're using, or in a jug, for example, is to put a tablespoon of dried activated yeast, 1 teaspoon of sugar, and then you put in your warm water, and then you give it a good mix until everything's dissolved. And once everything has dissolved, just leave the water there for about 10-15 minutes because you want the yeast to be activated. Now, once it's been activated, you know this by looking at your water and it's slightly bubbled a bit. It's 2 parts flour to 1 part water. Flour, you're going to want to put in about half a teaspoon of salt. At this point, you want to gradually add in your water. We're not going to dunk it in because that will just be a mess. So as you can see, I'm gradually adding in the water, and as I'm gradually adding it in, you're going to start coming up with these type of different flakes. Just make sure that there's no more flour bits. If there are any flour bits, just add a little bit of water on those flour bits on the side of your bowl. Once all of your floury bits are gone, you just start using your hands and really get in there and start kneading the dough. And then put it onto a clean surface area and start kneading. You don't need any flour onto your surface area at all, you just start kneading. And your dough should feel tacky. And not too dry and definitely not too wet. You want to keep kneading for, so I would say between 10 to 12 minutes is pretty good. And once your dough, you feel like it's ready, or you want to check that it's ready, just form it into a rough ball and just slightly put your finger in there. And if you get a spring back about halfway to 3/4 of the way back, that means your bread dough is ready. You want to put this in a nice, slightly oiled bowl, and you want to leave it there covered in cling film or a damp towel, and you want to leave it in a warm area until it's doubled in size. Now let's get to our filling. This recipe, I'm using ground chicken, fresh ginger, garlic, sugar, white pepper, Chinese chives, which if you don't have Chinese chives, you can replace that with spring onions. If you have cabbage or if you have bok choy, you can use that instead. Sauces that I'm using in this recipe, I am using sesame oil, oyster sauce, light soy sauce, and Chinese vinegar, and Shaoxing wine. The Shaoxing wine and the black vinegar is optional. One thing that you need to have is sesame oil, oyster sauce, and light soy sauce. I need to finely chop my vegetables. The smaller the pieces are, it ensures that everything inside, it ensures all of the ingredients within the steam bun will be cooked. So in this one, I'm finely chopping my Chinese chives. And then I'm finally dicing my costa. Afterwards, I'm finally mincing my fresh ginger. With any of these vegetables, you can use a cheese grater or a blender if you're really not wanting to chop this small. Next, I use mincer because I feel like it gets most of the garlic flavors out. So with my filling, I'm adding in, and it doesn't matter in what order, adding in my garlic, my ginger, my Chinese chives, the costa, the sugar, and next I'd be adding in my light soy, and I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of light soy, 1 tablespoon roughly of oyster sauce, about 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 1 tablespoon of Chinese black vinegar, which is optional, and again my optional Shaoxing wine. Lastly, I'm adding in my ground white pepper, and I'm mixing everything with my hands. And I want to make sure that I want to mix everything until everything comes together with ground meat paste. I'm just adding a little bit of chicken to my saucepan just to give it a taste. If you have a microwave, you can put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Now I've gone to check my dough. It's been over an hour already, and my dough is doubled in size. At this point, I'm going to take out my dough and I'm going to start kneading it for about 3 to 5 minutes. Just to get all of the air bubbles distributed that has formed from the yeast. At this point, I'm gonna roll it out into about a 2-inch thickness. Each piece should be around 2 inches in width. This is the point where I'm ready to make my steam bun wrappers. And to make this, you flour your surface area. Once you flour your surface area, flatten out the dough with your hands. And once you flatten it out, you start rolling the dough. Rolling with your dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so I'll be rolling with my right hand. The left hand I'm using to rotate my dough around. Your dough starts to become bigger. You're only starting to roll halfway up towards the center of the dough, because the center needs to be slightly thicker than the rest of your dough, because it will be holding onto the filling, and if it's too thin, then the bread can break from underneath because of all the moisture that eventually comes off from the cooking process. The thickness of the wrapper is about 1/2 centimeter in thickness, and the actual width of it is going to be around 3 to 4 inches. That's quite big because, again, this is a bun, not a dumpling. Add around 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of filling in the center. This again is going to be something that you're going to feel by hand. Your thumb and your index finger never moves, and it always stays within the first pleat. So you keep bringing in a pleat, and your left hand is again helping push the pleat towards your right hand. And once you reach the end, you start to twist and you leave your thumb inside. If you have any excess dough, which actually happened with mine, because in fact I definitely underfilled my bun, and you just keep twisting and you close. Have a bamboo steamer, that's great. If you have a normal steamer, that works absolutely fine. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna need some non-stick baking paper and cut them out into squares. Heated steam bun onto the paper into the steamer. And make sure there's space in between, definitely around 2 centimeters space in between each of the steam buns, because if not, they're gonna stick together. Cover this and put it in a warm area for about 15 to 20 minutes so it allows it to rest and also rise a little bit. Make sure that your water is already boiling, and then place your steamer on top ready to cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. Do not open it in between at all because it can collapse. After 20 minutes, turn off the heat and allow the steam buns to rest for a further 5 minutes before you open it up because it's really hot. So that's it from the steamed buns. I really hope that you enjoy this recipe, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. This is one of my favorite dishes, and as I said before, this is something that I'm so happy to share. Please enjoy and stay safe. Don't forget to subscribe, click on the notification bell, and leave me any comments down below. I hope we come with something back soon. See you guys in the next video. Bye!